All right,
Hey,
that's pretty
everyone.
intense. You got that
Yes,
countdown.
yeah, it's like it's just two doofuses who write books. I mean, this is not.
It's intense, though. That's important. You got a big thing. Like I wait for Jack Bauer to come out and defuse something.
Yeah. Oh God, Jack Bauer. So. Hello, everyone. To kick things off here with some blasphemy, because that's the best way to do it. Tonight, I'm drinking Mad River Burnt Rock Bourbon from Vermont, and Michael, Vermont is a great place to get bourbon, right?
Yeah, that is the equivalent of Burgoosh, right? That is the Skipway brand bourbon if it's coming from Vermont, right? I have from the state of Kentucky where you're supposed to get bourbon. I have Blade and Bow.
Aha. I wonder.
I've been to that Mad River place though. They make a good whiskey.
I also drink Scotch.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are Scotches that are made outside of Scotland. They couldn't call it Scotch.
No, that wouldn't.
If it has the same peat moss.
No, because not even all Scotch really has that peat flavor, right? The Islay's, so it depends on where in Scotland it's made. Because this is why everyone tuned in to hear about whiskey.
Absolutely,
so if it's an Islay on the island of Islay is the really peaty stuff, right? Your Lagavulins and stuff like that. Whereas like a Macallan is almost, which is what I had last night, a Macallan 12, which is a really nice bottle. I always buy myself a bottle of Macallan when I finish writing the novel. So
nice. Irene usually gets me something, and I got one called Ardbeg. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that either.
And it was like one of the few Scotches. We just came back from 2 weeks in Italy.
Yeah,
Ardbeg's one of the few Scotches we could find over there. I'd never heard of it before. It was in our local grocery store, and then it's like on the shelf behind the bartender in Italy. So the one Scotch I can't drink is Lefroy. It is so peat forward. It's like
that's it. So that's an Islay.
Yeah,
so that's going to be. So you're going to you would. We could do this offline. We can. I'll give you some scotches that you'll like.
Yeah.
And if you like, because if you like bourbon, then you're like, let's talk about your book though, man. Task Force Hammer. It's great.
Okay, I have to say to everyone out there, I am terribly, terribly sorry. I'm an awful person. And I promise never to do it again.
Don't read the comment
again after I finish writing the X-Force books and the Convergence books, and then whatever
you write next. Yeah.
But after that, no cliffhangers. I promise.
I'm only 60% in, so nobody tell me. I'm not looking at the comments tonight because I do not want to see how it ends.
Okay.
I'm 60% into it. And this is how good Task Force Hammer is. Okay, I don't get a lot of time to listen to books, right?
Yeah.
I have to, because my wife and I spend time together, and so I use most of my book reading time, my book listening time, is either when I'm working out or when I'm working in the yard.
Same here. Yeah.
Right. But my wife and I have been doing our workouts together, so that's not even been a thing. So for Task Force Hammer, it's so good. I've invented yard work. I've invented extra yard work this week to do it. So I was like out there and I'm like, okay, because the lawn's mowed, right? It's September. And look, grass still grows here in September. I'm in Georgia. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to trim the bushes. It'll look real good for, it'll look good for the fall. They won't grow anymore. It'll look good all winter. It'll be perfect. So I did that. Right. And then I was like, I really, now that the bushes are trimmed back, I really need to get the weeds out of the flower beds. So I got the weeds out of the flower beds. And then I'm like, at a time, I need more. I need to listen to this book more. Right. And so, I went and bought pine straw and I laid down new pine straw this week. So I did all that this week just so I could keep listening to Task Force Hammer.
Here it's been me working on the dock, move the boat lift, and it's a whole thing. Yeah. So, but I mean, I listen while I'm in the gym. I listen while I'm running. I don't listen while I'm riding my bicycle. That's not safe. But I can't sit in a chair and stare off into space and listen to an audiobook. I have to be doing something.
Yeah.
Walking the dogs or something. So and I did not listen to your latest book.
No, you couldn't have. Yeah, you couldn't.
Because it wasn't available.
The audio is literally finished yesterday. So
So But I did love Planet Side or Butlerverse 4.
Yeah, Dark Side.
Yes, loved it. Loved it. I really loved how you gave Mac his own scene in his own voice, because he kicks ass.
So so in book 5, he's got a third of the book.
Yeah. Oh,
so
wow.
So I did it kind of as an experiment in book 4.
Yeah.
I gave Mac his own scene there. And then in this, he's got every third chapter basically.
Oh,
give or take in Blindside, which is book 5, which is not available to anybody till next year, but it's done. I finished it this week. So
cool. Excellent.
Yeah. So, Task Force Hammer I think it's my favorite of the X-Force books. I think. I don't know. It's too early to say. I haven't got to the end, so I don't hate you yet.
Yeah. Several of the beta readers said this is your best book.
Yeah.
I
don't know what it is.
I put a book out there. Every book that I create, to me, is the best. It's the latest thing I've done. It's the latest in the huge overarching, story of the entire series. And, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And, when I'm writing, I'm usually upstairs. And if Irene, my wife, can hear me laughing while I'm writing, then she's like, oh, he's having a good day of writing. Yeah. Or she'll come by me and like tap me on the shoulder because I can't hear her because I've got Linkin Park thumping in my ears because I'm writing a really cool, action scene.
I can't listen to anything when I write. I gotta write quiet.
Wow. See, I can't. I write best when I've got my noise canceling headphones on. It was a slip up. I have them on, and I listen to a lot of like movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
And like EDM music, like Moby.
It doesn't have words. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this background stuff. Sometimes I'll listen to even like Beethoven or something like that. If it's just, I just need something in the background to cover up the sound of the dogs barking at squirrels. But yeah, if I'm writing like a really intense combat scene, I need some kick-ass music. So yeah. But yeah, I if I'm doing something, if I'm doing like math or something like that, headphones off. I need to concentrate fully on it. But for the flow of writing, I need, especially because we spend so much time writing.
Yeah.
And sitting there, my brain gets bored. If I don't hear some music. Yeah.
How much research do you do? Like there's first of all, having not been a military guy, some of the stuff that you pull out about doctrine and stuff like that, right, is like so in this one we were talking about surface ship doctrine, right?
Yes.
You were talking about World War II surface ship doctrine.
Yeah.
Which, do you got a guy?
I got a lot of guys, and I read a lot. I read a lot. I've got an idea that for the last book in the series, which I'm not going to say the number yet. The last book in the series is based
18,
on
right? 18.
I'm
just kidding.
Yeah, no. So, my wife says I can't tell a short story.
No, I know.
Big story. So, I got an idea for the last book in the series on an article I read on like science.com or something like that. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. That's frightening.
Yeah.
So,
well, you got the nanotech. There's all this stuff. I don't research a lot.
Some of the stuff is just bullshit. The whole, no, but like Skippy creating micro wormholes.
Yeah.
Micro wormholes could be a thing. It's an Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Right.
And Einstein was way smarter than me. So if he said they're possible, then they are.
Well, and the dynamic that you have since you have Joe as the point of view character who doesn't understand any of it, and Skippy who understands all of it.
Yeah.
Right. Is like, I can't explain the physics to you. Like, that's your get out of jail.
You really want me to explain to you? No, I really don't.
No, you're too dumb to understand.
And I do that.
Butler, he's an infantryman, right? So
yes, yeah.
This is how a spaceship works in Butler's world. I get on it, it goes where I want it to go, and I get off of it.
Yeah, you don't need to know how how the technology works.
Yeah, I don't know how an elevator works. I know I get on the first floor, I get off on the 10th floor.
Yes.
So,
Right.
I mean, I have a general idea of how it works. I've seen it in movies.
I explain as much as people need to know about the technology. Like I talk about, dropship fuel. I never explain what the fuel is. Marco Close in his Frontline series, his dropships also have fuel, and if they go on long range missions, they actually carry fuel bags.
Sure.
He doesn't explain how it is. I don't care. It's some sort of fuel. It's a limitation device that, hey, we can't go forever. We need to refuel. The ships in X-Force, I do explain they need helium-3 for their fusion reactors.
Sure.
And they refuel from a gas giant planet like Jupiter. But I also, in the earlier books, I used to put specific numbers like, the missile accelerated at, 4,000 Gs for this time. And then it was, and the problem is the nerds, like one of my beta readers, Terry Clemens, who's a really smart guy. He's sitting in his basement in his underwear. It's like, well, wait a minute. If that missile expired,
Terry, we're about to. I think we're going to go to audience questions here in a minute. Before we do that, I just have to, for some of your fans, I'm a real person. Like you might not know that, right? Like there is someone in this chat who until today thought I was a fictional character.
Yes. Michael Mammay, the weapons officer, who was the weapons officer of Valkyrie, and is now the
commandant of the Naval Warfare School, Naval Gunnery School.
Yes, Naval Gunnery School. Yes, which the Navy is thrilled about. So
I appreciated the promotion.
Well, I mean, it's been like 9 years, I think, since book 15, since failure mode. I've been a little vague about that, but Joe has 7-year-old son, so it's pretty obvious. But
no, that was that's what I think. Well, because it's been that time, but also. Yeah. Okay.
Well, no. Okay. So people who read, or they should listen to Planet Side 4 Dark Side.
Yeah.
There's a character named Alanson.
Oh yeah. I cannot wait to hear what Bob did with your voice.
I
want to hear what Bray did with your voice. I have not heard the audio yet. I won't hear it till Tuesday, probably. So yeah, I'm be interested to hear what he did with your voice.
I'm afraid to hear it. So I pre-ordered it. So I'm going to be up and listening to it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
But
he said he was going to do a Swedish accent with a tongue thrust and a lisp,
which is insulting.
Because you're Norwegian.
Because I'm Finnish, not
Finnish.
Swedish.
My bad.
And Finnish totally different from Swedish or Norwegian in a way that I can't explain because I don't know, but I'm sure there is a difference. So
the one time I was in a place with all with Finns and Swede officers and stuff like that, they were all talking in some language that I didn't understand. I walked in and they said, "We'll switch to English now." And I just felt like I felt like Joe Bishop, where he's walking in and he's, like, I'm the dumbest guy in the room. Everyone else here speaks multiple languages and I do not.
So we like I said, we just came back from 2 weeks in Italy. We went to Florence, we went to Lucca, we went up into the Dolomites. And the interesting thing is, up in the Dolomites, which are the Eastern Italian Alps, that region used to be part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire until after World War I. Mm-hmm. So they don't speak Italian, they speak German.
Oh, wow.
And like in most of Italy, the signs are in Italian first, and then it has subtitles of English, right?
Yeah.
Well, up in the Südtirol, the southern Tyrolean region, the signs are in German first, and then English, and then Italian in a lot of cases. And I'm in a store, and trying to buy gloves or something, and I'm speaking my very broken Italian that I learned in a week, and the woman's like, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" I'm like, yeah, nur ein bisschen. And then the people behind me who are Italians are speaking English to this woman who's an Italian German. And I'm like, this is really bizarre. Although they had really great.
That would work for me better because I speak German better than I speak Italian.
Oh,
I've never been to Italy. I lived in Germany. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. The Italian Alps were, just life-changing, spectacular trip. We definitely need to go back to Italy. And the food is amazing. except we went to Florence and we were watching some cooking TV show, and they talked about Florentine steaks. So I'm like, oh, I got to get one of them. Well, the Florentine steaks, like it's a ribeye like this thick.
Oh, wow.
And they cook it for like 15 seconds on both sides. So it's charred on both sides.
So it's red in the middle.
And like super red in the middle. And I'm like, oh, that's a little. Irene loves carpaccio, the raw shaved beef, and she's like, that was a little too raw for me. So anyway,
are the people behind the scenes are getting anxious?
Oh yeah, okay. So
they're ready to start throwing questions up.
Yeah, okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead and okay. How many? Okay, so David Caballero, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Have a full box set for sale in paperback format. That I don't know. I suppose you could just buy them on Amazon. Every once in a while they have bundles. It depends. So how many books do I have left? And this is a shocking exclusive. 20. We're going to go to 20. Yeah. Not
20 left. Throw 3 more.
No. So we're going to go to book 20. I was asked by Victoria Gherkin. She's a VP at Podium.
Yeah.
And she was at our house and she's talking about, oh, you're going to end it with 19. You're not going to go to 20. I'm like, well, the idea I have for how they wrap up the whole, I mean, the Elder arc took 15 books. And I'm like, well, I have the ideas to wrap up the Outsiders arc in 4 books. And then, like I said, I read this article on physics.com or science.com. And I was like, oh, that is a really cool, frightening idea. And that's how it needs to end. And I need an extra book. So 20, along with a 21st book, which will be a prequel about how Scarandum becomes the sketchy ECO officer he is. Now, this going to 21 books overall has nothing to do with me being a huge Patrick O'Brien fan, who wrote Master and Commander and The Far Side of the World, and who happened to have published 21 books. There's no connection to that. And back over my shoulder, you do not see hardcover first editions of all of Patrick O'Brien's books. It's if you see that, you're reading incorrectly.
It's pretty blurry.
Yes.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yes. Oh, wait, that comment. Okay, here it is. Wow. Well, you know what? So I think the best people who would be able to go on a spaceship, to be inside a composite tube for a long time, are people who've been in the silent service. I mean, not Air Force officers who are, can look out the window. You can look out the window on a spaceship also, but there's nothing to look at. And just the confined space, I could not do it. I mean, my wife has been on a boomer. She worked on the Trident missile program, and she went on a boomer. I forget which one it was. Anyway, down at Kings Bay, Georgia. And this was just at the dock, and they gave her a tour of the ship. And she's like, oh my God. I mean, the bunks are like 18 inches tall between them. And
that's a big sub.
Yeah. And you're walking like
that's a big sub compared to what they were on during World War. So let me follow up on this question with another question that is related to this. So you reference in Hammer, and I know that you wrote it a while back. So you reference Run Silent, Run Deep, right? And Joe telling the story of going with his father or seeing it with his father on TV, right? So did you just pluck that out of your own life?
No, that was entirely, that whole scene I wanted to have. I realized that I had not had a scene of single ship combat. One ship hunting each other.
No, that whole sequence was awesome.
Hadn't done that since like the first couple books.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to have a scene of, the technology I've invented for these books. A lot of it is, like in Battlestar Galactica, if an enemy, if the Cylons are shooting at Galactica, it can just jump away.
Right.
So where's the tension in that? Oh, well, I invented a damping field the enemy can project to prevent the ship from jumping away. And so a lot of it is I have to have restrictions.
Yeah. Well, you added a trick for the enemy in this one that gave them that advantage. We're not going to talk. I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't done it, but it was really neat, really neatly done.
Yeah, and that was okay. How do I get to the point where the enemy has a disadvantage, even though Valkyrie has Skippy? How can the enemy have an advantage on that? And I had to kind of back into it, and I was like, well, wow. I remember in book 1, I referenced some issue that happened with somebody breaking one of the rules, and that's why that rule is in there. So it was a shout out back to all the way back to Columbus Day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people are like, "Oh, that's what he meant by that." So
and it was a little writer trick. It was, just a little inside baseball. You did the Skippy was quizzing him on if he remembered the 5 rules, right? Which is your way, obviously, of providing the 5 rules back to your reader, which is a little writer trick. That was pretty cool. It was really well done.
Because I try to avoid info dumps. I mean,
no, right. Well, I mean, and you get your science info dumps because Skippy's explaining stuff to Joe, right? Because it's why everyone puts a rookie in a cop show.
Yes.
Right. So if you're writing a cop show, you put a rookie in there. Why? So he doesn't understand stuff, and the veterans have to explain stuff to him. So they're really explaining it to the audience.
Yes. Yeah. Without doing
not to give away our secrets. Someone else is going to take our books. Someone else,
I one of the beta readers said, like, you need to revise this scene because it sounds like one of those, as
well, you got to watch that. I mean, we all
this happened. Like, no,
when you're writing a draft, everyone does that a little bit. And then you got to go back and take it out.
Yeah. I've got a beta reader, Lisa Farina, who is really good at catching those things. And I'm like, I don't see it when I'm reading my own stuff, and I'm like, you're right, it does come across that way. I'm going to go ahead and change that. So
that's why we have beta readers.
How do you write so much and keep that routine of it's a job?
Craig, how do you write that much?
Well, I mean, you write a lot too. It's just that
I do not write as much as you do.
Yeah, but Harper only
2,000 words a day, brother.
Well, you know what? I kind of do 15,000 words a week.
Okay, I do 10,000 a week. Okay, we're close.
So I did take part of the summer off, a couple of weeks, and during those weeks I wrote like 8,300 words. It rained a couple of days. So I don't sit down to write. I have a schedule of how many days a week I'm going to write versus days I'm going to have a life. Do stuff with my wife but it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. I had planned to write today, but tomorrow's supposed to rain all day. So how about we go do something today and I'll write the next week. But I don't sit down to write unless I know the scene I'm going to write.
Oh, good for you.
If I don't know, because the worst thing in the world is to sit there staring at a blank screen and hovering over a keyboard. If I don't know how the scene's going to go, I will flag it. And I'll go on and write another scene that I do know how it's going to go. Or I'll get up and walk the dogs or vacuum the carpet,
take a shower,
anything. And then that pops into my head, like especially riding my bicycle seems to do that because
what I do sometimes?
What?
Sometimes I'll stop before I finish the scene so that tomorrow when I come back, like I know the first 500 words are going to come, right? Because I'm like, I know where I'm at in the scene.
Yeah.
I'll just leave. And then it'll flow into the other scene.
You told me that
a
couple of years ago, I think at Atomicon. I'm like, so I not only end for the day in the middle of a scene, I end in the middle of a sentence. So nice. If I get up in the morning, I'm like, I can at least finish the sentence. Oh God, before I have coffee. I just
you write that early? You write early?
It depends. Like I usually get up first and I go, put the bird feeders out, etc. And then I'll just sit there quietly, not trying to wake, Irene up, and I'll just type away and do something. I have enough discipline that I'm like, I'm going to write some words before I start, surfing the news or checking sports scores or something.
So we do time together in the morning. Melody and I do time together in the morning. I usually write in the afternoon.
Well, yeah. Well, it also depends on where we are. Like if we're down in our house in Florida, and it's a hot day, we got to get up early to walk the dogs before it's too damn hot. Yeah, I tend to have.
Trust me, I get that one. I understand that. It's still too hot. It was too hot today.
Yeah, I tend to have more productivity in the afternoon. If I'm going to write, say, 5,000 words in a day, and I have 1,500 done by lunch, that's pretty good. But then it seems to like flow after that. And a lot of times on a serious writing day, we'll have dinner, and I'm like, okay, honey, I'm going to go write again. I'll be upstairs at 8:30, and we can watch whatever. So, yeah, but it's like I need to get the words out. The key, though, for me is knowing what I'm going to write and how the scene goes before I sit down to write it. And I write a lot of out of sequence stuff because I'm like, wow, I'm not exactly sure how the stars are going to get this done.
No, I cannot do that. I got to write. I'll write a placeholder scene knowing that I'm going to delete it just to get to the next thing.
Wow.
So I'll have a day where I write 2,000, 2,500 words and I know that I'll keep 500 of them. It gets me to the next thing. It gets me to the next thing. I just have to have this sequential thing. I don't know why. I wish I didn't.
So I'll write. I number my scenes. I use a pipe key, a pipe, then the number, and then a pipe, so that I can delete it.
You use Scrivener?
No, I use Word.
Okay, that's what I do.
Yeah. So, but I keep track of the scenes in an Excel spreadsheet where I'm like, hey, I've written these scenes in series, but then I've written 3 scenes down here, and I need to write all the stuff in the beginning, in between. And I know most of that is specific scenes already planned out. And then when I get it all done, I do what I tell my wife is called stitching it together. Like I need a transition scene between this and this that I've already written. So I do a little transition scene, to blend one to the other.
You do some cool stuff with that I can't do, right? And that you write these scenes that aren't really part of the story. Like you'll have a 2,000 word scene where Joe Bishop is burning popcorn for his boys, right?
Yes.
And there'll be a little bit of information weaved in there, but it's just such good slice of life stuff, and I think your readers love it, or your listeners love it.
That's character building scenes.
Yeah, it is, and it's great. And I think it ties things together, and and he always has because that's how he thinks, right? You built this character who thinks. He gets the idea for what he's going to do next when he's doing something else. So you show him doing that other thing. And I think it started with the first book. It started back with when he was talking about, he went on a 12-page diatribe about hamburgers.
Yes.
Which, I support because I've been searching for the perfect hamburger.
Yes. Which is, you have to have the perfect bun to burger ratio.
There's we could do like a whole hour on that. We won't because people have more questions, but we could talk about that because it's true. Do you read your series?
Occasionally I do. Every once in a while I'm like, God, which book was that scene in?
I don't.
And I will like ping my beta readers, especially Terry Clements, who's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, oh, that was in chapter so-and-so of book 13. Well, I also go to the X-Force wiki. And I recommend that for everybody. Before you go on to the next book, read a summary of the book on the X-Force wiki, which is why I don't bother to write my own, meanwhile, back at the ranch, this is what happened.
I don't do that either. I don't either. But this, so for book 4, because I took a 2.5 year stop between books 3 and 4. Harper asked me to write a summary of the first 3 books at the beginning. So I'm like, what did happen in Planetside? So I had to write that, and I had to go back and do that. But also, so you don't have this, but I have a copy editor who keeps the series Bible.
Oh.
So, and also, if you want, you used your beta readers for this, right? But like when I was trying to write Darkside, I put in a character with the same name as somebody in Planetside, And he was a tertiary character. He wasn't anybody important, but they're like, hey, you used this name already. You want to give him to somebody else? I'm like, yes, I do. And so that just came back to me as a note. Okay, so I have the beta readers, but then I have the professional dude who.
So I'm way above that. I named a character Tammy in book 1 and then renamed her Jennifer in book 2 because I'd forgotten her name was Tammy.
I remember that.
And then they had the retcon in like book 5 or something about why she's called one versus the other. I've written so damn much stuff.
No, you have. I mean, you're what? I mean, there's 200,000. I mean, you're 40. You're probably 1.4 million words into this thing, right?
Yeah, I mean the average book is like 190,000 words now.
Yeah, so 200,000.
Task Force Hammer is the biggest one I've written. It's like 227, I think.
Doesn't feel like it. It does not feel like it. It feels so fast.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, that's one thing I loved about Darkside is it just flowed. I mean, once it got to the point where the action openly kicks off, it's like a headlong rush to the end of the book, and it's got humor, and Darkside's got the
you got that moment,
which I know you don't like as much as I do because
that's your thing.
Life isn't like that. Life isn't.
When we had that conversation about that, right? Where when you were talking about how I've taken that, right? That's in my head, and there's something to it. It's you're not going to find it in any writing book anywhere. Yeah, but it's great. I mean, obviously, it's working for you. And honestly, I did not write that scene with that in mind. But when you said that about that scene, I was like, okay, I got it now. But I write those books to be super fast, right? Yeah. Which is actually a horrible idea if you're trying to sell audiobooks. You don't write 9-hour books. But I try to give you 9 hours. I mean, what the perfect example of that is the Mario movie. Yes. Right. So I had to go to the Mario movie because my son wanted to see the Mario movie. Yeah. And so he wanted to see that. And we went opening day. We're in the Mario movie. And the writers of that got it perfect. It's 90 minutes, but they hit the gas pedal at minute 1 and they don't let off till minute 89. I mean, it's just, they go. And, that's good because nobody needs more than 90 minutes of a Mario movie.
Yes. Yeah. It's
but I write more thriller style. I write my books more like thrillers than science fiction. So which is a shorter format.
Yeah. And you tend to have shorter chapters also than I do. Mm-hmm. My chapters are around 10 pages, but if it turns out that the chapter ends at 8 pages or even 7 or 5, that's the way it has to go. If a chapter has to go 15 pages because it's one continuous scene, I go 15 pages, which I would never be allowed to do if I was writing a, traditionally published book. But
no one ever, you know what? I disagree on that just because no one has ever told me, no one's ever said a word to me about like chapter length.
Because I thought the standard that James Patterson has set for thrillers is short chapters because you want the person to finish one chapter and go on to the next, right? And then I started this.
I argue with James Patterson, but
I'm
like you. How long is the chapter? As long as it needs to be, right? I mean, it can be short, but if I'm doing a run and gun battle across the planet of Kappa, it might run long.
Yeah, I mean, I have scenes where like I could put a break in things, but if it's just one long action scene,
let it go.
There's a writer trick where you have a mini cliffhanger and then that's the end of the chapter and goes to the next because the person has to either wait for Bob to say chapter 15 and they're like, oh, what's going to happen? Or even on a Kindle, they have to flip to the next, and it gives it that little beat of anticipation. Like
you can, like telling as long as you don't do it too much. You can't do it too often, right?
Yeah. Because then it seems like a trick. But that's one little beat you can put in to give that little anticipation. And it's like telling a good joke. you put a little pause before the punchline for the anticipation to build up.
Well, you can do it, and if you need to draw it out, right, you flip. The next chapter isn't it's another character.
Oh yeah,
right. So you go to the guy who's dropping a boat on somebody.
Yes.
That's
Well,
my favorite scene, by the way. That's my
that was an
favorite
accident.
scene.
There's going to be a safety briefing in the morning.
That is my favorite scene. He needs to have a boat accident. Well, he doesn't live by the water. Drop a boat on his head.
That scene is a shout out to.
That is my favorite.
One of the Mavericks books. I think it was Death Trap, where you first meet Scarandum and Kinsta. They are interviewing, I think, like the bus Farak or something, who captured some Thuranian prisoners and then murdered the prisoners. And it's like, this guy, he's all beat up over here and his head's cut off in the corner of the prison cell. What happened? Oh, it was a boating accident. They're like, okay, like, I really don't care. As long as I get the paperwork done. And then it's like, what happened to this guy? Yeah, and then what happened to this guy?
I don't even think, okay, so I'm only 60% into this book, right? Scarandum seems to have absolutely no purpose so far. Like, but I don't even care. Well, I know he does. I mean, I know he does. It's Chekhov's gun. He asked that. You're putting him in there for a reason. You're not doing it. But so far, he seems to have no purpose, and I don't care.
Yeah,
like, I just want that scene. He's the dirtiest, and yeah. Well, that and him and Gastovsky. Obviously, I live to see Gastovsky.
Yeah.
To become a master sergeant, and he's like, I think he's the chief financial officer of Skipway or something. I think ridiculous.
He's the minister of finance for Skipistan. Yeah,
that's what it was.
Which I don't foresee any problems with.
Right, and like for the 90% of the people in here who don't know, that's my character, right? So Craig did that for me, and took a character from my book, The Misfit Soldier, and made him into this awesome thing.
Yes, Sergeant.
And I wish I could write that. I have that. I have Misfit Soldier 2. Like, I have that outline, and they're not gonna take it because it didn't sell. Because Bob didn't do the audio.
Yeah, could you sell?
Bob had done that audio. That book would have gone forever.
Yeah.
So one day, if I get the audio rights back and I get it to Podium and have them do it, hey, just so you Podium people who are listening and hear that. That's on the table. That book will kill.
We got
Have you written characters?
Oh wow! I mean,
meal and a wine with. That's a great question.
Bob, Joe Bishop. I mean, he's the only character.
Great. He's great.
I mean, for one thing, he'd be easy to talk to. I mean, if I'd be sitting there sitting there with one of the star operators, I'd be like intimidated the whole time. It's like, these people are awesome. And then anybody like really smart aboard the ship, I'd be like, God, they've gone through so much. I mean, Joe is the everyman. He's the regular guy who lucked into the situation and is just, by hard work and, he's just getting it done.
I agree with that. People, when you talk to hardcore fans, and they're talking to a new fan, right? The person who's on Columbus Day, and they say, you got to get to chapter 10 because that's where Skippy shows up, right? And everybody who's watching this tonight knows that, right? But for me, that book is Joe Bishop. I mean, to me, when I read that, because I read that, I didn't listen to the first one. That's the guy. He's the guy, But which of your characters do I want to have a meal with? Nagatha would be fun. Not that she can drink, but I think I love her attitude. Reed, I like Reed. Reed is one of my favorites.
Reed is actually based on my real niece. Yeah, she's Samantha.
I met her. Yeah, I met her.
She's an oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right. She was at that concert thing we went to.
Yes. She's an Air Force captain. So she's at
I like Reed is the perfect to me. Is like I know I've known people like Reed,
Okay, good.
Right. Where she's like, I don't need to know unless I need to know. Right. You know, that's kind of, I mean, she didn't use that exact line, but that's kind of her attitude.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
But I like her.
So good question. Yeah. Oh,
this is a smart person. You're smarter than both of us.
Oh, God,
just so we can tell you that ahead of time.
Neuroscience grad student.
Yeah.
Physics. Just physics it inspires me about, this is the physics of, what if a space station was orbiting a neutron star? Well, that'd be time dilation and tidal effects. I tend to make up biological shit more than I do physics stuff, because I can say, there are quatrains, which are, nano machines based on quantum entanglement. And I can plug it in there and people can't say, oh, well, that could never happen, because, it could. But yeah, I tend to read a lot more like, science.com or physics.com or Wikipedia articles or whatever the hell it is. I tend to read more of the physics stuff than the biology, especially because and this is the problem in the books. Like, if a soldier, has an explosion and they loses a leg below the knee, they're not going to get it. They're going to get prosthetic. But in the X-Force world, medical science can regrow that knee. And it's like, I feel bad for anybody reading the book.
Yeah, there are issues with that, right?
Yeah, it is. And I don't mention, by this time, this disease has been cured because this magical Skippy medicine they given. I don't mention that because people reading the books might be suffering from that or have a loved one. I'm like, I don't want to say, in this future, that's no longer a problem. It's like, all right, you got to be careful about that. Yeah.
That's
whereas with physics, it's like whatever we know now, 20 years from now, I'll be like, what were we thinking? That was totally wrong. Yeah. So, and you can always put in stuff like string theory because there's no way to prove or disprove string theory. So, yeah.
Yet.
Yes. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. And a lot of the physics I put in, somebody says, oh, well, this is not quite right. I'm like, well, 20 years from now, it might be considered right.
It might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question before we
Sure.
put up the next question. I have a question. This came from a fan earlier today. They asked if there were hard covers available still, signed hard covers of book 1.
Yes,
of
we
Columbus
have a
Day.
limited amount of them. I think we put them back in the store. I think we have 100 copies left. Okay. And for my brother, who is a fan, which is really cool, cool. I gave him a hardcover of Task Force Hammer.
Oh, nice.
So not available to anyone else on the planet. I don't even have it. But it was me creating a hardcover. And he said the quality of it is really good. So there might be hardcovers available of all the books soon. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just testing it. So.
Where do all the ideas for all the shenanigans?
Elizabeth,
I have a good story about
Elizabeth knows me. So just my wacky sense of humor, I guess. Although I don't know what you mean by shenanigans. So, I mean, yeah.
I got a review on Misfit Soldier. One of my reviews said that would never happen on a military base, right? They picked a scene from my book and I'm like, dude, that was real. I just filed the serial numbers off something that actually happened, and I wrote it into a book. And and the guy was like, that could never happen. I'm like, but it did.
I totally did that in Task Force Hammer. Yeah. There's a scene where they can't connect to the local base network because the system's down.
Yeah,
and it was based on something that happened to my brother while he was here at our house, and he's like, for some reason they bought a company and then they took over
the whole certificate thing.
Yes, but they forgot that one of the certificates they used was registered in the domain of the old company, and the domain name expired. And he's like, "Oh my God, I'll just go on to GoDaddy." And
that was great, though. There was so much tension in that, and then it was resolved.
Yeah, but it's like it was all based on real stuff that happened to my brother.
Yeah, I've written some stuff that really happened. And then the dreams are mostly real. Most of the so Butler, when Butler has his dreams, most of those are
Yes.
real.
Oh,
But your ideas for your shenanigans, right? There was a general officer that I worked for who used to say, if you put 10 infantrymen in a room with an anvil and you disappear for 15 minutes and you come back, it'll either be broken or gone, broken or missing.
Well, you're the one who said, hey, if there's a ship, it's going to have a still on it.
It's going to have alcohol. There's a black market on your ship.
Yes.
The only question is, do you know about it or not? Right. But the fact that Butler was enlisted before, right, is he knows that the fact that he thinks he's still part of the E4 mafia, I think is hilarious because he is to an extent, but he's not.
In his mind,
right?
He is. Yeah.
In his mind, he is. Right. But in reality, he probably isn't. He's not hearing all this stuff.
Yeah. In book 18, I wrote a scene where Joe is confronting that I'm not that guy anymore. And he's like, and I
that's real.
Yeah. He's like, I can't be that guy anymore and do my job, but I miss it. It's like a part of him is missing now.
That's so real though. Because when I was a lieutenant, when I was 22 years old, right, I was a lieutenant, and my battalion commander, who was probably all of 38, but to me, he was ancient.
Yes.
Ancient. Like he was like my dad. I mean, he was this old dude.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't, and like fast forward like 1 year, it feels like.
Yeah.
I'm 38 and I'm a battalion commander. Right. And I don't feel old. I do not. Yeah. But I remember distinctly feeling that way. So.
Yeah. But did you, at that point, did you look back at your 22-year-old butter bar lieutenant self and say, God, what a dumbass I was back then?
I did that every time I got a new rank. Every time when I was a captain, I'm like, man, I didn't know anything when I was a lieutenant, but now I've got it all figured out. Right. And then when I was a major, I'm like, man, I was a dumbass as a captain, but now I've got it all figured out. Right. And it just kept on going. And you would think you would learn your lesson, but you never do.
But
you never do.
In some ways, we're like Skippy. You do not learn lessons unless it gets pounded into your head.
Yeah.
Okay, one last.
Has
one last question. Oh, okay. I did not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did not find R.C. Bray. Podium says, "Hey, if you sign with us, R.C. Bray will be your narrator." I'm like, the guy who did The Martian? No way.
That's exactly what I said.
Yes, and I'm like, no way would a guy like that first, agree to do this nowhere book that I wrote. Because it's so, different. And he's got to be doing, huge books and all this. And it's like, and then I met Bob. This is a couple of years after Columbus, Nerd Columbus Day. I'm like, what a super nice guy. I mean, he's been to our house and but yeah, so I did not come to find R.C. Bray.
So for me,
you signed with us. Yeah.
I wrote Planet Side with Bob's voice in my head. So so I had just discovered audiobooks.
Yeah.
So I wrote this book I started in November of 2014, and I had just started listening to audiobooks because I was living in South Carolina and my wife was in Georgia, and I was commuting home every week. So I was getting audiobooks back when they were on CD. Right. And so I got this book called The Martian, and it was the first audiobook I ever listened to. And I had his voice in my head.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's Butler, right? Like that's the voice. So I wrote the book for him to read, not having sold it, not having any idea. I had never been published, right? Yeah. But I wrote the book for him to read, and then I got the contract with and as part of my process, when I was talking to my editor, when Essie was buying the book, I told him that, because it's part of my origin story.
Yeah.
And so they sent me a list of 3 people. Like they're like, hey, here's your 3 audio narrators. Take a week, listen to their samples, and do it. And one of them was Bob. One of them was R.C. Bray.
Yeah.
And I sent him back 15 seconds after I got the email. I said, I want R.C. Bray. I didn't even listen to the other people. I'm like, that's the guy that I wrote the freaking book for.
Yeah.
And and that was the one that it got nominated for an Audie, and he's obviously the right guy for it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do you interact with him during the narration process at all? I definitely did on this book.
I did not.
Well, I did on this book because in Dark Side, I do that one chapter with Mac as the main character.
Yeah.
So I wanted Bob to know that because I was writing book 5 as he was narrating book 4.
Yeah.
I wanted him to know that, hey, whatever you choose, any choice you make for this, you're going to live with, because I'm doing it. I'm doing it. You know, I'm giving him 10 chapters to the next book. And I just wanted to make sure that Bob knew that.
Yeah. I had in one of like the middle books of the series, like book 9 or something, there's a Giraffe, the character, a cadet, I think. And Bob gave him a really funny voice. He was a throwaway character.
Yep.
And then I needed a character in the next book. And I referenced him back, and Bob's like, I can't do that voice for a whole chapter. It's like talking like this. And it's like, oh my God. You know, I didn't realize that the only interaction I have with Bob now. So in the first couple of books, I would make suggestions, and I really learned that
Bob better than you are. I mean,
Bob is the master. Yeah. But I did ask him, like, hey, could you burp the happy birthday song? He's like, dude, of course I can. And I would love to do that. Yeah.
Okay. His interpretation of your work is better than anything that anyone could write. I mean, you know, just the voices, the different voices of Skippy.
Yeah.
Depending on the mood, right? The way that he says Joe. Right?
Yeah.
Just the way that Bob says Joe.
Yeah.
Tells you as a reader or as a listener, there's like information in just the way that he says it.
Yeah.
Right. Because but Joe acknowledges that you wrote it on the page. Right.
Yeah.
But Bob's interpretation of that and what he's done with it. Right. Because there's the Joe. Right. And there's the hey Joe, you know, and there's like all the different versions of just the salutation between Skippy and Joe. You wrote part of it, right?
Yeah.
Part of that's on the page, but like that's like 20% Alanson and like 80% Bray.
Yeah, and I put a lot more exposition of that into the first couple books.
Yep.
And then I realized I don't need to do that. And I used to,
because we write for audio.
My beta reader said I use a Bob comma, and it's like, hey,
you do.
So that Bob comma is in there not because I know that I don't think Bob will pause there, because I know he will. It's for people who are reading the book to have a similar experience in their own minds of putting a little pause right there before you go on to
my English teacher self cannot do that.
Yes. Oh God. So the beta readers, I'll tell them, look, I do not care about grammar. This is supposed to be a semicolon.
No,
I don't care.
We're aware.
When you give the comments back to me, don't even put it in there, because I'm going to have to address it. I just want to go down.
Your books are written to be listened to.
They are, and Joe doesn't use perfect grammar.
No, of course not.
I also write the way people actually talk. So people say and they repeat themselves, they interrupt each other, which any writing course would tell you don't do.
No,
writing courses will also tell you to use
right. Yeah. It's why you're number one on Audible and not number one on the New York Times list. You know, I mean, you know, it's an experience. It's an experience, and it's a good experience, and it works. And he is the perfect guy. I mean, he's the perfect guy.
Yeah. If my books were reviewed by Mary Robinette Kowal, she would tear them apart, because I don't use a 3-act structure or a 5-act structure. I didn't use any structure whatsoever. I just tell the story. Now, the fact that I'm telling such a long story.
You do use a structure. You use the structure. You use your structure.
Well, yeah.
It works for you. It's
Like she mentions the try-fail cycle, where
Right. Yeah.
So I use a little
She's
bit
lovely,
of
by the way.
cycle.
Anyone
Oh
listening
yeah,
to
yeah. I mean,
don't anyone
yeah,
listening to this take it to think that we have
no,
anything but respect for this woman. She's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. She does a podcast called Writing Excuses that used to be Brandon
Yeah, it
Sanderson's
used to be
podcast.
Sanderson's. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
She was she were you at the Atomicon she was at? Is that the one you came to?
no, she was the year afterwards.
Oh yeah. So I got to
Yeah.
do her. Oh, she's so good. I got
Right.
to do her. We did this thing that you and I are doing right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we did an hour with Mary Robinette Cowell, and I got to
yeah.
be the narrator. I got to be the
Oh,
person
cool.
who asked the questions, and
Cool.
it was so cool.
I think Podium saying we're going to wrap up here. So
Yeah, well, they'll do that.
anyway, so oh my god, my glass is empty almost.
I still have some. I don't know how that happened. I kept refilling.
So to everyone on camera here, this is like 4 o'clock in the morning to me because I just flew back from Italy last night and it's a 6-hour time difference. And between this and the bourbon, yeah. But I'm as animated as I get at this 4 o'clock in the morning. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got a chance to do this. Anybody who's out there, thanks for watching us, and we appreciate your time, and get Task Force Hammer if you haven't. Like, I mean, if you're here, you've got it, right? You've got it. You're probably mad. Like, if you've listened to it already, you're probably mad.
Yeah.
Trust the awesomeness.
Yes.
That's what I would
absolutely.
tell you.
Yes.
Trust the awesomeness. Craig's got something in book 18. I haven't heard of it yet, but if he hurt you, he's sorry.
I am terribly sorry.
But it'll come.
Oh my God. Some guy's listening. He's listening from Denmark at 4 a.m. Wow, that's either
guy right there is a fan.
That's either dedication or somebody who's got an overnight job who's not.
I can't see the comments. I see that there's 288 of them, but I
can't. So you know where it says private chat over to the right?
Yeah, if I click on it, it takes me like out of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm not efficient.
Yes.
I just hope that like there's 2 people in here who've read my books.
Oh,
or at least 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, if Dark Side, people could go into Dark Side without having to read the first 3 books because it's. I mean, you need.
I wrote it that way. I mean, I hope so.
Yeah, it's a self-contained story and it's a kick-ass story. And like I said, the point where, not quite where the shooting starts, but where oh my God, we got to go react to this. From then on, it is a page-turning nonstop. You got to get to the end to see what goes on. It is really, Dark Side, really, really good book. Yes. In fact, I when I finished reading the ebook that Michael sent to me, I texted him back. I think I was on a plane at the time, and I'm like, "Dude, this is your best book. I mean, this is."
People are saying that, and people are saying that about this with your Task Force Hammer.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it earlier today. Like,
you never know. Yeah,
as a writer, like, I don't feel like it's the best thing I've ever done, but
yeah. So Paul Thomas says, I haven't read the Planet Side series. Oh yeah. So it starts with Planet Side, where most of the action takes place in space. And the next book is Space Side, where most of the book takes place on the planet.
Yeah. I really wish I could go back and retcon that.
But Colony Side takes place on a colony. So
it does,
that's good.
Which is not even a word. Colony Side, I tried to name it something else.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my last chance to not call it Side, right? And so my editor agreed, and we named it something else. I can't even remember what we named it. And then the marketing people were like, nope, you need a Side. And I'm like, well, great.
Yeah.
So book 5 is Blind Side.
Yeah, so that's good. And Dark Side makes sense. And it makes sense with the
Dark Side. I came up with the title.
Yeah.
And it generated the whole book.
Oh God. Okay. So guys,
I'm like, okay, I need a side title, right? So I came up with Dark Side, and I'm like, well, clearly we have to go to the dark side of a moon, right? Because if you're our age and you hear the word Dark Side, horrible for SEO, by the way. Right? Oh, well, Pink Floyd kind of wrote.
That's a good point.
They had a little little thing.
Yes.
Dark Side of the Moon. Right. But when I thought of Dark Side, I'm like, this whole book takes on they go to the dark side of the moon, and that drove the plot. Well, that and I stole it from a Clint Eastwood movie, right? Because the little girl at the beginning.
Yes,
yeah. So it's Rooster Cogburn. It's I can't even remember the name of it.
Oh my God, that wasn't Clint Eastwood. That was John Wayne.
John Wayne. I'm sorry.
Yeah, True Grit.
John Wayne. True Grit.
True Grit.
Yeah. No, John Wayne.
Movie,
then they did the new one,
which was ruined the whole story. I mean, they apparently never. Either they hated the first movie or they never watched it. So anyway,
fill your hands, you son of a bitch.
Yes.
I really wish I could have got that line in there.
Yes. All right. So let's see.
Yeah, we're probably
over. So
there's no one listening anymore. We're just
no. We're getting comments. Backside. Oh no. Michael's not going to write Backside. That's going to be a monster romance that somebody I'm sure has already written.
No, so my agent told me to write Sheet Side because she like that's the Carl Butler romance story is called.
Oh God! Oh,
I don't know. I got to come up with a number. I got to come up with a name for book 6. So
yeah. Oh, there's going to be a book 6 then.
Yeah, I've already been paid for it. So
wow.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
In a very legally and legally binding way.
Wow, that's great because I know you'd gotten signed for 5.
I signed for 5 and 6 together.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Because I just wanted a little stability in my life, and when you're a traditionally published author, like having that 2-book deal, like knowing what you're going to write next, like you're going to get to 20 because Podium will do whatever you tell them to do.
Okay, so our
you're number 1 in the world.
Degenerate. Somebody, Joshua Tanton, suggesting Broke Backside. I think that movie's already been done.
I was offered a lot of money to write that. You met him. You met John Hartness.
Yeah.
He told me if I wrote a gay military science fiction, he would give me a lot of money because he could sell the shit out of it. He could sell the shit out of it.
Wow. I mean, that's got to be a small audience, though.
You would think, but it's also it's a completely underserved audience.
Well, that is a good.
I'm not writing it because I'm not the guy to write that.
Yeah.
But
it's like Dean Cole. So Dean M. Cole writes the Dimension Space series.
Great.
He's like the M is really important because there's a guy named Dean Cole who apparently writes gay romance or something. It's like
no. Solitude. Tudes.
The food
magnitude, solitude.
Yeah, Dimension Space, he calls it. Yeah.
So good though.
So Sunrise Bolestra, hope I pronounced that correctly. Is there going to be an X-Force book 18? Yes, and in fact, I'm 18% done with it as of yesterday. So, and book 18. So I originally said, book 16, 17, and 18 would come out Christmas each year. And we released 17 early in September. 18 is not coming out this Christmas, but it's also not coming out next Christmas. It's coming out sometime in the spring, depending on Bob's schedule. So yes, there will be an X-Force 18. Not a year later.
So I don't put out my books the same week as yours.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I also released a book. I also released like the week after a Bobaverse book. And I didn't realize that I was stepping on Dennis Taylor's shoes. And so he and I need to communicate about, so.
Yeah. When did his come out?
Like the week before Task Force Hammer. Yeah. I mean, it's a great book. Yeah.
So I'm not just competing against yours, I'm competing against that.
Yeah.
Like number 1 and number 2.
Yeah. Expeditionary.
I like those Dennis Taylor books.
Somebody suggested Expeditionary Side. We collaborate on a book. That's never going to happen.
I do not think that'll happen.
Could you imagine me giving you, like, if we wrote one chapter at a time, like the guys, the Expanse guys did, and you reviewing my chapters and all my horrible grammar?
I don't think we could do that.
No.
We are very, very different in styles. I just don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think that
would not work.
You'd be trying to write 200,000 words, and I'd be trying to write 90.
Yes. Yeah. And I'd have a whole bucket of semicolons. All right, I got to wrap it up here. My wife is saying got to wrap it up. So
yeah, my wife
thank
is
you,
standing in
everyone.
the door.
Yeah,
So we got to go.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Bye. Bye.